There we go. Recording in
Hello,
progress.
hello, yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much for hopping in. It's another day. My name is Ryan Samanyema. If you're meeting me for the first time, like I said, my name is Ryan Samanyema. I'm a maths student studying radiography, my third year. And apart from my medical studies, I'm also a proficient, top-rated medical writer on, especially on LinkedIn by Favicon. And so today I have an amazing guest speaker. She's a writer and also a nutritionist. Hey, Sarah, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Sarah. I'm a registered dietitian and freelance writer based in Canada. I've been freelance writing since 2022, and I'm really excited to be here with Ransom today.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So are you ready for these questions we have for you for the audience?
I sure am.
So if I'm looking downwards, I'm reading the questions I wrote down for Sarah to answer for the audience. So you've been wondering what Ransom's looking downwards for. So the first question goes this way. How do you balance the roles of a domain registered dietitian and a medical SEO writer, and also a B2B health writer to deliver valuable content in different formats? So tell us how you do that.
Yeah, so at the moment, I don't actually see clients as a registered dietitian. I'm purely doing freelance writing, but I do maintain my licensure as a dietitian because I think it's really important to have people who are regulated health professionals providing evidence-based information. And so I do a lot of continuing education to maintain my licensure. So I have to balance my continuing education credits with doing my freelance writing. And so the way I do that is I do a lot of scheduling. I schedule all my deadlines out so that I know exactly when things are due. And the way I do that is I use Trello. It's a free app that you can use. And I basically use that to plan out all of my assignments that I have, but also to plan out my continuing education that I need to do as a registered dietitian.
Hmm. Wow. So why are you not seeking for clients as a registered dietitian? What made you to do that?
Yeah, so the reason I don't see clients anymore is even before I started working as a registered dietitian, I knew I wanted to write. And so I did see clients for about 5 years. I worked in a lot of different areas. I worked in kidney disease, cancer care, diabetes, weight management. I worked in lots of different clinical areas. So I think I got some really good experience that helps me be a better writer. But at the end of the day, I feel like my energy is best served writing because I can reach more people that way. When I saw people one on one, I would see maybe 5 or 6 people a day, and that was all I saw. Whereas when I write, I can reach millions of people with my words, which I think is really cool.
That's amazing. That's really amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much for telling us how you balance those equations because these are really, really strategic. Let me use the word hectic words and kind of works you do. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So,
Yeah.
the second question goes this way. Are you ready for the second question?
Yes, I am.
All right. So, I'm going to read the questions to the audience, right? So, can you share how you use SEO strategies to increase the visibilities and impact of your online health content? So, how do you do that?
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, SEO means search engine optimization. And so the two main SEO strategies that I use to increase visibility of my content is keyword research and creating quality content. And so to get your health content in front of people, you need to identify relevant keywords or key phrases that people are searching for in Google so that when they type it in, your article pops up. And so I use a tool called Key Search to find keywords to incorporate, but there are many tools available. So Google Keyword Planner is a free one, I believe. SEMrush is a paid tool, but it's very robust. So if you've got the budget, SEMrush is really great. But then while keywords are important, they're not the only thing that's important. And so I think what a lot of people forget is that just because you incorporate keywords doesn't mean that Google is going to think your article is good. You actually have to create quality content that answers the reader's question. And this is becoming a lot more evident. Google keeps releasing updates, and every time Google releases an update, those lower quality sites that are just kind of stuffing their articles full of keywords, their traffic takes a hit. And I think Google is getting a lot better at identifying which content is actually helpful. And so, yes, identify keywords that you can incorporate, but at the end of the day, you really want to be creating content that is valuable to your readers.
Absolutely. I tell people as well that everybody can be a medical writer. Everybody can be a medic. Everybody can own that title of being a medical writer, but not everybody can put in the work, right? Because SEO is really important in everything we do as a writer. So that's why I did a whole lot of courses on SEOs. And basically, I have like 7 certificates on SEO that I did, courses I did. I'm not doing it just to prove that I have certificates on SEO or just to, no, I'm doing it because of credibility. So that if a client needs my services, I can, put some valuable things on the table so that I won't spoil my own reputation. So as a writer, listening to this discussion, you need to learn SEOs, learn how to do, learn the strategies on how to write with your SEO, strategies. So to bring visibilities, like Sarah talked about the keywords, to bring about visibilities in your article. So that if you don't do that, your article may flop. So Sarah, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, the third question goes this way. So as a nutritionist, right, how do you deal with or address misinformation or nutrition, trends, especially in the digital space? So how do you do that?
Yeah, so in terms of addressing misinformation, if I see someone posting something that is like blatantly harmful, I might jump into the comments with a link to maybe a more reputable source of information. And then when it comes to my own writing, I'm very selective with which assignments I accept. So I will only accept assignments that are aligned with evidence-based practice. And so that means that when I'm writing, I'm contributing to the body of work that is helpful and science-based rather than contributing to like fad-based kind of work.
Hmm, 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 hmm. Wow. So how do you get updated with the latest trends and technologies used as a nutritionist? How do you get updated?
Yeah, so one of the really useful newsletters I subscribe to is the Nutrition and Dietetics Smart Brief. And so it's produced by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So it's a good, credible source of information. And it provides links to emerging research, trending topics in nutrition. And so I get that every day and I kind of scan through it to see if there's anything interesting. But then I also follow a lot of freelance writers and health organizations on LinkedIn, and they post quite often as well. And so it gives me a good way to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what's trending in nutrition.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. So that draws me to the fourth question. So this is out of the questions we have for you, this is one of the major ones that the writers or audience needs to hear. So we are waiting for your own narratives on this question. So what is the important thing to create content that will resonate with healthcare providers and the public at large? What I mean by that question is if you're writing an article, you have a healthcare or a medicine background, and you're writing things about the related stuff about healthcare, whatever. So what I'm saying about the public is people that are going to come across your articles may not be inclined with anything related to healthcare, medicine background. So how do you write your content to, resonate with a public or diverse audiences and healthcare providers? Tell us in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges I see with new writers is that when they come from a healthcare background, it can sometimes be really difficult to adapt their writing style so that it makes sense to people who don't have a healthcare background. And so I think one of the main, most important things to do is to use plain language when you're writing about healthcare topics. And so what I mean by that is avoid medical jargon, but if you can't avoid medical jargon, explain what it means. So even something as simple as saying hypertension. Some people might not know what hypertension means, so you need to explain that that means high blood pressure. And so it's not talking down to your audience. That's not what it is at all. It's just making sure that you explain things in a way that would make sense to someone who doesn't have the healthcare background you have. And this can be really challenging because as healthcare providers, we've spent years and years and years in school and we've read so many research papers, and it can be really difficult to adapt your communication style. But I think if you try and think of it like, how would you explain it to someone who has never heard any of these words before? And kind of make it engaging. So instead of just like talking about what it is, use empathy, like show that you understand what they're going through and use examples that they can relate to, because I think people want to know that what you're writing about is relevant to them. And so using examples and using real life cases can be really helpful, and then reiterating the key messages of the piece. And so people who are reading health information are reading it because they want to better their own health. And so give them key messages, give them actionable steps that they can take to improve their health. It's not enough to just write about something. You have to actually give them actionable steps that they can take. And I think that's what a lot of people miss.
Perfect. And I believe that the audience will greatly, pick something from what you just said. I love the fact you talked about avoiding medical jargons. So let me expatiate on that. We didn't say you should avoid medical jargon. What we're saying is break it down for the audience. Like you said about hypertension, rather than using that word hypertension, you can just use high blood pressure. It's quite understanding for a layman's understanding. So if you want to talk about hypotension, that's low blood pressure. You don't need to say that. Just use some little medical terms for the audience to get what you're saying. If someone in tech, someone who's a data scientist can come across, maybe he's reading something just to tell, maybe a married couple, the husband is reading something, who's into technology, reading something for the wife or something, just break down all these things to, for them to understand what you're talking about. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So the fifth question goes this way. How do you keep up with the latest mm, mm, in nutrition science and health writing to maintain credibility in different roles? So how do you balance this equation? How do you keep, updated, like I said, with the latest nutrition sciences and the health writing community at large? So
Yeah.
tell us how you do that.
So one of the things I love about being a freelance writer is it's basically part of my job to keep up with the latest research, because the assignments I'm doing for clients are often related to new emerging topics. And so I learn about these things just by doing my job, just by taking on new assignments. And so sometimes I will take on an assignment because I don't know anything about it, which is sometimes scary, but I think I actually write sometimes better when I don't know that much about the topic, because I'm forced to break it down and really learn about what it is. And so I do that. like I said before, I follow a lot of health organizations on LinkedIn, and they post a lot that kind of keeps me up to date. And then I do actively seek out like continuing education opportunities. So, like webinars, presentations, that kind of thing. I like to attend those because they kind of give me the most recent research updates.
Hmm. Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. So I'm kind of like curious, but how do you get these conferences you attend? How do you get to know about those conferences?
Yeah, so I follow, like I said, I follow a lot of people in LinkedIn,
Okay.
and often people will advertise these continuing education
Yeah,
opportunities on
absolutely.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. How you balance and get updated with the health writing communities at large, and also you work as a nutritionist. Thank you so much. So number six question is all about, considering the changing landscape of digital content, right? Can you offer some advice for aspiring writers out there looking to establish themselves in this field? So, what are your nuggets for them?
yeah. So one of the best ways to establish yourself is to build a strong online presence. And so this could look like maybe creating a website or a blog where you can showcase your portfolio for future clients to see. But I think one of the best things you can do is start using social media platforms like LinkedIn to share your content and engage with peers and potential clients, because I have found that the places that my potential clients are hanging out tends to be LinkedIn. And so if you're active on LinkedIn and engaging with people, that kind of shows that you are up to speed with what's going on in the industry. And then another thing that I think is really important is focus on quality over quantity. And so, what I mean by that is instead of producing five kind of so so samples, maybe it's better to just produce one or two really high quality, well researched samples that you can use. Because I think that shows that you can go into depth into a topic and really explain it well. We kind of talked about SEO already. I think if you can invest in a course to teach you about some SEO basics, that will really set you apart from a lot of other writers. And you're not going to learn everything about SEO overnight, but I think if you can familiarize yourself with some of the key aspects of it, that really gives you an in with a lot of clients, because I think a lot of clients want SEO strategy and expertise. So if you can offer that, that definitely sets you apart. And then my final tip would be put yourself out there and pitch your ideas. As much as it would be wonderful if clients came to us, unfortunately, that's just not the reality. And most of the time, you're going to have to go out and find your clients yourself. And so, actively pitch your ideas to publications, websites, organizations, editors, anyone you can think of in your niche. Put yourself out there, because if you're not pitching those ideas, it's really hard to get work.
Wow, you just touched the main pain points. So I'm going to say, run any commentary on that again. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we've come to the last question, Sarah. You've been an amazing, great speaker, and
Thank you.
um, share your own narratives on these questions in a nutshell. It's amazing, and I believe that the audience as well will greatly be enlightened based on their own narratives you shared. Thank you so much for that. So we
You're
come to
very
the
welcome.
last question. The last question goes this way: based on your experience, right? How do you adjust your communication style when writing to communicate with audiences rather than practitioners? So tell us.
Yeah, so I think this is really important. And I've written articles that are kind of patient facing, but I've also written articles that are provider facing. And I think a lot of the same principles apply to both, because even if you're writing to healthcare providers, not everyone can be an expert in everything. And so even if you're writing to someone else who's in the medical field, they might not understand the medical jargon from your specific field. And so, like we already talked about, instead of you don't have to avoid medical jargon, but at least explain what it means so that they can understand what you're talking about. But I think for me, the biggest difference between writing for a provider and writing for a client is when you're writing for a provider, you're kind of trying to give them information they can use to help their clients. So when you're giving take home messages and actionable steps, you want to kind of tailor them so that they are deliverable to a patient from the provider. Whereas when you're writing for, say, a patient or a client, you want to make sure that your key messages and actionable items are things that they can directly apply in their own lives.
We've come to the last session of this amazing program, and I believe that the audience greatly appreciate this video. So, Sarah, before we wrap up the session, what are your last words for the audience?
Yeah, so I think my main thing is don't give up if things start slowly. When I first started, I was not making a lot of money. I did not have a lot of clients. I didn't have a lot of LinkedIn followers. Keep going because you will get to a point where you start getting more clients and you start to feel more confident and you have more samples and it kind of just snowballs from there. So don't give up when you're at the beginning because it does get easier and you will get more clients if you continue to put yourself out there.
Thank you so much. So if you love this content, do well to subscribe, share, and like, and also share to your network. Hopefully someone in your network will love this video. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Okay, should I stop the recording?
Yeah, sure.